April. Okay, welcome everyone to the meeting for the Niagara Regional Police Services Board on Thursday, April 27th. I turn to the board now. I look for declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest. I see none. Is Bob temporarily? Okay, I'll just move on. And that, okay, minutes of the previous meetings. I'd like to move number 71 through 73 in block. If I can have a mover, please, and a seconder. Member Bonham, Member Caslin. Any comments or questions on the minutes? All those in favor? Carried. Reports from the board chairperson. Before we begin the public meeting, I guess every meeting, according to our bylaws, I'm supposed to announce that, to remind everyone that in attendance that the Police Services Board meeting is live streamed and the video recording of today's meeting will be posted on YouTube. So I'll be doing that every meeting. Second, Justice Tulloch, is that how I pronounce it, Tulloch? Report on independent police oversight review. On April 24th, the Honorable Justice Tulloch presented his final report on the review of civilian oversight bodies for police in Ontario at the Sheraton Hotel in Hamilton. The three oversight bodies that were reviewed are the SIU Special Investigations Unit, the Office of the Independent Police Review Director, and the Ontario Civilian Police Commission. Our board participated as part of Justice Tulloch's consultation process, along with more than 1,500 people from across the province. Justice Tulloch's final report includes 129 recommendations to help transform police oversight so it is more transparent and accountable and has the confidence of both the public and police. Board member Vaughn Stewart attended the session and Justice Tulloch's presentation on behalf of the board. Member Stewart, do you have any comments on this? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. It was a pleasure to attend the presentation. It was Justice Tulloch's final one. He's gone around the province. He did them in Thunder Bay and Ottawa and Kingston, etc. And he was quite pleased this was the final one, and he says, I am done tomorrow and I'm back to the bench next week as a justice. So that was quite interesting. I think the most interesting part for police services boards is the influence that OAPSB had on this report. Justice Tulloch, one of his first consultations was to consult our president, Eli Deschantre, in Ottawa, and we're quite involved. And if you look at the recommendations and read them, OAPSB is the only organization mentioned in his report for input. So the boards collectively across the province had recognized input into his report, and I think that's pretty valuable for all police boards to know. So that was quite interesting to hear that, and I guess the next step is we'll see which of the recommendations the Ontario government takes to heart in legislation. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and this would never go back to the government, but I wish it would. That it'd be nice if they had the meeting down here sometimes rather than making us go to Hamilton for that, and that's why lack of attendance from our side, but thank you for going to that. Next, the Regional Municipality of Niagara NRPS Joint Facilities Steering Committee meeting. On April 25th, Vice Chair Ganzel attended the Joint Regional Police Facilities Steering Committee meeting for discussion on the police facility matters. Vice Chair Ganzel regularly attends these monthly meetings in his role as Chair of the Board's Accommodations Committee. The next meeting is May 23rd. Ken, would you like any comments?
No, through you, Chair, a good meeting, and we're progressing on a number of issues that the board identified about 2 months ago.
Thank you for that. Then the Ontario Association of Police Service Board Advocacy Day at Queen's Park. On April 26th, the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards held a Queen's Park Day at the legislature in Toronto. A special roundtable meeting to discuss important public safety issues and present policy options was held with the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services and the Attorney General. In anticipation of changes to the Police Services Act, key policing issues were raised such as police oversight, rising costs, governance, labor reform, suspension without pay, and others. Board member Vaughn Stewart attended the event on behalf of the board as he sits as a representative of the OAPSB Board of Directors. Vaughn, do you have any comments?
Yes, thank you again, Chair. Although I was not in the meeting with the ministers, that was the president and vice presidents of our organization. We did have a little presentation afterwards. It was quite interesting. The government still seems to profess that there will be Police Services Act changes coming up, and there may be some changes in the fact that, based on Justice Tulloch's report, some things may be removed from the Police Act and then go under the Attorney General's office instead of the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services. So that was kind of interesting. Again, OAPSB has been well listened to as an organization representing the boards, especially in the area of governance. And we are being listened to. We've got the ear, and luckily our president also, both the Minister of the Attorney General and the Minister of Corrections and Community Services are Ottawa MPs, and of course our president is from Ottawa, so he's certainly well connected to have influence. So hopefully I'll be still around to see some changes to the Police Act, but that remains to be seen. Thank you.
I was going to make that comment too. I hope it's done before I'm out of here, but the wheels are moving way too slow on this. So. Next is the NRPS recruit swearing-in ceremony. Tonight, the service is hosting a recruit swearing-in ceremony to formally recognize 4 new recruits to the Niagara Regional Police. The ceremony will start at 7 p.m. and will be held here in the community room at Police Headquarters. Board members Bob Marshall, Vaughn Stewart, and I will be attending the ceremony on behalf of the board. Next, the Pathstone Mental Health Foundation 2017 Hope Award Gala. On May 12th, the Pathstone Mental Health Foundation is hosting its annual Hope Award Gala in recognition of the outstanding contributions made to improve the lives of children and youth living with mental illness. The event is being held in the Grand Ballroom at the Fallsview Casino in Niagara Falls. Vice Chair Ganzel will be attending on behalf of the board in recognition of our sponsorship and community partnership with the organization. Then the cross-border tug-of-war competition. On May 13th, members of the Niagara Regional Police Service will be participating in the annual tug-of-war competition against Niagara's American law enforcement counterparts. The competition will take place on the Rainbow Bridge at 1:30 p.m. There will also be a barbecue and escorted march to the Rainbow Bridge by the Niagara Region Police Pipe Band. Members planning to attend are asked to confirm with board staff. Chief, can you guarantee a win this year? Because I know last year was the first time in decades and that. Okay, no guarantees. And I noticed the mic wasn't turned on. Thank you. Next, the NRPS Auxiliary Recruit graduation. On May 15th, the service is hosting a graduation ceremony for 15 new auxiliary recruits. The ceremony will start at 7 p.m. and is being held here again in the community room at Police Headquarters. Board members Bob Marshall, Vaughn Stewart, and I will be attending the ceremony on behalf of the board. Next, the NRPS Annual Awards Ceremony. On May 16th, the Police Services Board, the Niagara Regional Police Service, and the Senior Officers Association will host its annual awards ceremony at Club Italia in Niagara Falls. This important event recognizes outstanding service members and fellow citizens who have demonstrated excellence or made invaluable contributions to the Niagara community. The event also recognizes NRPS retirees and longstanding employees for their commitments to the service. Vice Chair Ganzel, Board members Marshall and Stewart, the Board's Executive Director, and I will be attending on behalf of the Board. Now, the OAPSB OACP Zone 4 meeting, the Ontario Association of Police Services Board and the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police will be holding their Zone 4 quarterly meeting on May 19th at 8 a.m. The meeting is hosted by the Brant County OPP at the Brant Sports Complex in Paris, Ontario. Vice Chair Ganzel, Member Stewart, Ms. Reed, and I will be attending the meeting on behalf of the Board. Then the Kristen French Child Advocacy Center, AGM. On May 24th, the Kristen French Child Advocacy Center will be holding its annual general meeting at its offices located at 8 Forster Street in St. Catharines. The event starts at 4:30 p.m. and the guest speaker is St. Catharines Mayor Walter Sendzik. Board member Vaughn Stewart will be attending the event on behalf of the Board. Upcoming PSB meetings. The next PSB committee meeting is Thursday, May 11th at 8:30 a.m. in the community room at Police Headquarters. The next board meeting, the next board meeting is Thursday, May 25th at 8:30 a.m. and be held at the town of West Lincoln in their council chambers. Everybody remembers we had mentioned that this one's going to be at West Lincoln, and then one in the fall is in Welland. Earlier this year, the board decided to change the location of its meeting in an effort to promote awareness of the role of the board and to stay in touch with community concerns over policing issues. Building on last year's successful meeting held in Port Colborne, the board wants to continue to be proactive in engaging, educating, and hearing from the public by holding at least 2 off-site meetings a year. The first will be the town of West Lincoln on May 25th, followed by a meeting in the city of Welland on November 23rd. These off-site meetings were set in collaboration with Mayor Doug Joyner and Mayor Frank Campion. as they recognize the value of having the board meeting at their council chambers so their citizens can participate or inquire into anything police-related. I got to tell you, they welcomed us open arms on this. There was no question about it, so I'm happy with these two mayors for that and their councils. By holding meetings at locations other than police headquarters, it makes the board members more accessible and connected to different communities in our great region. The NRPS will open the meeting on May 25th with a public presentation and provide information about local community safety issues. Members of the community are encouraged to attend and engage with both board members and police service staff. Further details will be made available closer to the meeting date. If everybody recalls what we did in Port Colborne, then what we will still do is if anybody is watching this from West Lincoln on this broadcast, then if they have any questions when they're there, we'll take the questions in and we'll bring it to the board here, and Deb will go through it with Don to make sure it's, I'll use the word worthy or police-related in that, and we'll bring it on then. So they don't just have to send it to us in advance, because it's only a one-time shot for going to these towns like this. So we'd like to have the members of the public, if they have any issues out there, to come with their questions. And that's it. Thank you, Chief. I'll defer to you.
Good morning. For comments from the service for our monthly update, I can tell you that to date we've seized, for the month of March, we've seized almost $3 million in illegal marijuana. The homicide count remains at 2 for the period of present time for the year 2017. For the month of March, there were 10 robberies across the region, 3 of which have been cleared, and the other 7 remain under investigation at this time. I'm happy to report that there were no fatalities or life-threatening motor vehicle collisions during the month of March. Some news updates on activities that we've been involved in across the region. In November of 2016, we conducted an investigation of a series of thefts involving high-end road racing bicycles in the city of St. Catharines. Investigation expanded to town of Lincoln and town of Grimsby. In total, 20 racing bikes had been stolen from open garages throughout the area. They were then sold on a buy and sell website across southern Ontario. As a result, Trevor Armstrong of Palmer Road in Grimsby has been charged with break and enter, commit, and possession of property obtained by crime. Past several months, we've been investigating an address on Larkin Road in Niagara on the Lake for marijuana grow operation. We contacted Health Canada, learned that there was a medical marijuana license for that address. Although the investigation, through the investigation, we determined that the operation was well outside the parameters of the regulations and was unlawfully producing marijuana. March 21st, we executed a search warrant and seized approximately 765 plants growing within a large greenhouse. Again, in March, 1 District Street Crime conducting an investigation involving a male and female that had been trafficking in heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl on the downtown core of St. Catharines. Conducted surveillance and investigation on both parties and learned where they were residing. March 23rd, we executed a search warrant, located suspected heroin, fentanyl powder, cocaine, hydromorphone pills, and Canadian currency, as well as $5,300 worth of drugs and $500 in cash. Across the region, there were 23 people arrested and charged with impaired driving-related offenses during the month of March. And again in March, 1 District Street Crime, investigating 2 males from Toronto who had been selling crack cocaine in the city of St. Catharines. During the course of the investigation, the officers were able to execute a search warrant at a Niagara Street address and arrested 2 individuals, seizing 45 grams of cocaine and crack cocaine, Canadian currency. And then again in March, the Welland Street Crime Unit, 3 District, investigating a drug trafficker that led to the city of Port Colborne, where it became evident that items were being stolen from business and stolen property was being exchanged for drugs. As a result, we executed a search warrant in that case as well. On a Welland residence, 46 bags of prepackaged cocaine weighing 23 grams seized, as well as quantity of stolen property. And that's what I have for this one.
Thanks, Chief. Anyone have any questions or comments for the Chief? I see none. Thank you for that. Okay, presentations is next. Item number 74, the NRP's policing activity at Lundy's Lane, Niagara Falls. Can I have a mover and seconder first to bring this? Member Bonham, Member Stewart. Inspector McCaffrey, are you doing? Inspector Jim McCaffrey is going to make a presentation on this. Just so you know, yesterday I was invited to, Inspector McCaffrey, yesterday I was invited by the mayor to a meeting on May 2nd about this issues on Lundy's Lane. And for the members of the board, this was brought on, I think, and maybe Inspector McCaffrey was going to do this anyways, but I had questions of the chief about an incident that happened last year, as well as a concern from citizens around there of things still happening in the area. So I'll leave it to Inspector McCaffrey to continue, and if we have any questions after that, so be it. Thank you.
Bear with me one moment, please. Okay. Thank you very much, Chair and members of the board, Chief and deputies. As you mentioned, I've been asked to come here this morning to speak about calls for service in the Lundy's Lane area. As a district commander, what I did was I first consulted the crime analyst in 2 District and asked her to put a presentation to assist me with some of the stats going on in that area. So what we did was we first compiled the stats from 2011 to 2017 to specifically see if there were any crime trends in that area. The area that we reviewed was Lundy's Lane from Garner Road up to and including the intersection of Drummond Road. Kind of a snapshot of that area where I think some of the issues that have been asked have been coming up. You can't see that variable. It's just a quick snapshot to show the area we're referring to. The red dots kind of indicate a concentration of calls in that area. On the far left is Garner Road. To the far right is, it goes through Kaler, Montrose, right up to Drummond Road with both sides of Lundy's Lane. So that's kind of the area that I'll be referring to today. First, kind of an overview. From the time of 2011 to 2017, there was approximately just under 200,000 calls in the entire 2 District. In comparison, for the Lundy's Lane area that we're reviewing today, there was 11,210 calls, which equates to approximately 5.6% of all calls in the Niagara Falls area. What the review did next was decide to break down a number of individual calls for service to kind of see if there are any trends during that 6-year period. Although this study kind of referred to about 50 different categories at first, we broke it down to about 10 to kind of show off first comparison purposes. So first I'll report on robberies, weapons offenses, domestic violence, impaired driving, auto theft, mental health, and a couple others, just to see if there's any trends existing in that time frame. Each category will be broken down by year. So looking at this chart, first on the left-hand column indicates 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. And referring first to robbery, we see in 2011 there was a total of 2 robbery calls. 2012, there were 3 robbery calls. 2013, 1. 2014, it goes up to 6, and 3 and 6 right down the column. To date, this year we've had 1. So it's pretty consistent year after year. There's not a lot of transition for robbery calls in that specific area. Although 1 is too many, there's not an awful lot of increase. There is a couple bumps in the time frame, but it's pretty consistent. The next category shows weapons offenses occurring in that specific area. Again, there's not much of a transition from the different years. It's pretty consistent. The next column indicates attempt murder. I wanted to show what, if any, offenses were that. There was 1 incident in 2016 for attempt murder. That's it for that specific area. Moving on to break, enter, and commit. You see in 2011 there were a total of 10 occurrences. Goes down to 6, 9, 6, 7, and a bit of a spike in 2016 of 14. I'll elaborate further on that on slide 7. The next column indicates assault with a weapon. We see 2 offenses, 3, 3, 9, 10, and 13, a bit of a spike as well. I'll elaborate further on those offenses in slide 8. A couple other offenses I just wanted to show you kind of where we are at. First is domestic violence. See 2011, you see a total of 34. Goes to 48, 51, 66, 69, and 80. There's a bit of a spike as we transition through the different years, but I think it's kind of conducive to some of the social issues going on in that specific area of town. Moving to impaired driving, you see 12, 16, 9, 7, 14, and 10. Again, pretty consistent through the years. There's not an awful lot of spikes up or down specific to impaired drive, excuse me. The next column refers to mental health apprehensions. I'm not sure why it did that. So, let's see. I'm not sure why we kind of bumped out of that here. Tim, any idea what just happened there on me in the middle of that?
Doesn't look like a portable radio, so I'm in trouble.
Okay, so if I,
Let's go back here and just minimize that. And there's the code 5582. And log in. There you go.
percent. Thank you. I'm trying, sir. It's kind of locked here at this end. Okay, I'm getting a different view here than what's up there. It's not moving up there.
Do you have paper notes you can speak to on it, or no?
Sure. I guess I'll revert to that, sorry.
I'll try. You keep going here.
So, well, I'll go this way. Not quite sure what happened there. I'll continue with my notes here. So we'll next move to mental health apprehensions, and there's a bit of a spike as we come down the different years. But I think that's quite fair to say that's something that's going on in the entire service. That's just not a Niagara Falls issue. We see that as probably one of the number one calls that we're referring to now are mental health issues. The next would be MVC, property damage. I just wanted to show some of the statistics for enforcement that's going on in that area. There is quite a drop in MVCs in that area. It starts at 35. The next one below that. One more down. After that, we go to MVCs start at 35, they go to 40, 38, 18, 13, and 16. So it does show a bit of a decrease in motor vehicle collisions in that area. I think it's also important to know that there has been a significant increase in driving suspensions in that area. There's been a marked improvement for our officers attending that area. We have an increase in driving offenses, and so I think there's been a marked improvement there for that. Moving next to auto theft. You see a bit of a spike in 2016 and 2017, and I think we're well aware what the issues are behind that. So what I wanted to do next was I wanted to take a couple of those categories and break them down further to kind of show you what's going on. So first I thought I'd take break and enters and break them down a little further for you. From 2014 to 2016, there were a total of 21 incidents which occurred in that area. Broken down further, you see that 14 of those 21 occurs in 8 local hotels, 4 in 4 different retail outlets, 2 occurred in residence, and 1 occurred in an apartment building. When reviewed by day of the week to see what days these are happening, you see pretty consistent across the board. 2 of them occurred on a Sunday, 3 on a Monday, 2 on a Tuesday, Wednesday for 4, Thursday for 5, Friday for 1, and Saturday for 4. So it's spread out right across the week. There's not one specific day. So kind of conclusion from that is there is a bit of a marked increase in break and enter incidents. However, they are occurring with all days of the week, with a majority occurring at some of the local hotels. Next, I broke down assault with a weapon between 2014 to 2016 to kind of show some of the trends there. Again, there were a total of 23 incidents, with 10 of them occurring again in the local hotels, 9 in liquor license establishments, 2 on the street, 1 in an apartment building, 1 in the retail store. When reviewed again by day of the week, we see a common trend here: 4 on a Sunday, 4 on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Again, generally speaking, there is an increase in assault with a weapon offenses. However, as you can see, they're occurring all days of the week, with the majority again at some of the local hotels or bars with no common element or visible trend. So some of the conclusions that I kind of wanted to bring to your attention from this: there were some increases in some of the offenses, mostly from 2015 to 2016 in the review area. I think it's important to note that in this area, it is transitioning from a tourism area to a long-term low-income tenants, which brings with it some associated challenges. As you mentioned, Sheriff, some of those issues have been coming up lately, and we'll be discussing that next week with the Mayor's office. I know that's a rising issue right now in the Falls. As well, in that specific area which I just highlighted, there are a number of adult establishments located in the area that have associated challenges. There were noted increase in mental health calls, theft under, break and enter, assault with weapons, which I believe can be associated to the influx of long-term tenants to this area. There is a directed initiative which we started about a month and a half ago, which on a regular basis does put added enforcement to this area. It does go through the different hotels, it increases bar visits, and it will continue, but again, the issues are not associated to one specific bar or one specific hotel. It's kind of spread out through the whole area. We will continue to form partnerships with intelligence with some of the management of the hotel bars and areas. I've met with a number of them to try to see what their problems are, and I continue to work with them to try to resolve some of these issues. So unless you have any questions, that's kind of what I'm bringing to you this morning.
Thank you for that. I know I have questions. Any board members? Member Castellan.
So thank you, and thank you for your presentation. You did identify increases. There's only one instance in your presentation that you said that you have some initiatives. So I guess what are those initiatives, and how are we going to monitor and manage the results?
There is one specific initiative which just puts officers in that area to address these issues. That's all they do on a regular basis. They go to the different hotels where some of these incidents are identified. They go to the liquor establishments. We're aware from speaking with management of these areas what the problems are. Those issues are brought forward to the officers. They regularly report back with the results. If we're seeing different trends, the officers are then directed to different areas. Every night that the officers work in that area, they are required to provide a report in saying what the results of their initiative were, so we can continue to change to meet these needs. The crime analyst will continue to monitor the results in this area and report back to see if this is having an effect or not.
And that's great, thank you very much. I guess, when would we expect to hear back the results of the initiative?
Whenever you want me to report back, I can report back.
Can we get that in the minutes somewhere on a date that we would ask for a follow-up?
Deb, you can follow up on that? Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board members? Member Stewart.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, just regarding the follow-up, with following statistics and seeing that some of the numbers are, 3, 4, and 5 over a whole year, what do you think would be a reasonable time to have a meaningful follow-up? In other words, enough data to make it worthwhile?
Well, I think some of these statistics have to be put in perspective. If you're talking 12 incidents over the course of a year, you might be talking 1 per month. These are not major incidents which are occurring. Some of the issues we're aware of, we will have an impact. So it's tough to put a specific date on it when I can do this. But some of the challenges with the hotels and bars, that's what we'll kind of put the most attention to. So it's like theft of motor vehicles. If you've got 12 in a year, 1 is too many, but you're talking 1 per month. We'll continue to try to get these numbers down. Perhaps the course of a couple months might be a good time for me to report back as to what results we've had.
Okay. My second question is, when you, in districts, when you're dealing with, some specialized enforcement initiatives, I know how manpower is always a challenge. I'm just curious as to the length of time these initiatives could be operating without having a detrimental effect on other patrol zones and whatever, as far as, are we just sort of moving something from one area to another, or are we solving a problem? I'm just curious about that, knowing the limited resources and the amount of area to cover, not just this area.
I think I've kind of identified some of the transition which are occurring in this area. And I think some of the areas might be more than just the police alone can address. I think there's some social challenges coming onto this area. I think the city is going to be dealing with some boarding bylaw issues. I know other areas of the service have similar challenges, but we'll continue to work with the parameters that we have to try to improve the safety of that area.
And lastly, are there any other initiatives you might be aware of, or maybe this might go through the chief to suggest, as you mentioned, that other agencies' involvement I think it's very well known. I'm much in support of having programs where all these agencies work together. I'm just curious of the type of involvement, especially in the areas of domestic abuse and those kind of things that you raised, whether or not we have some initiatives in place to work with other agencies or whatever to sort of have a joint effort to try to reduce the impact of this problem. I don't know if that should be to you or through the chief. I'll let you decide who should answer that.
Sure, I can add a little bit to that. I mean, our domestic violence piece, every case that we're involved in that involves a domestic violence victim, we partner with victim services and we partner with shelters and women's groups in the area to assist with that. So specific prevention of domestic violence is a challenging event for all of us. I think what Jim mentioned as well, you see there's a bit of a spike in that particular category, but the belief is that there's more people living there now in that general area. There's a larger population than there was 5 or 6 years ago, and the numbers we're comparing. So we do that kind of a partnership. We also, things that we won't discuss in public, we do intelligence work. We have other officers that are not driving uniform police cars that are involved in investigations in and around those areas. We also work with the Alcohol Gaming Commission in relation to the licensed premises. And then we're going to be relying on the city that has to deal with the housing issues in those hotels.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation.
Member Barrick.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation. Just for a little bit of context, when I saw some of the stats up there with respect to the days of the week, and it showed, 4 or 5 on a Thursday or a Wednesday, 1 on Friday, and 5 again on Saturday. So really, are the instances a result of a Friday night leading into really early Saturday morning on some of those instances, like 2 o'clock a.m. Saturday morning, as an example?
Sure, that's quite possible.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the members? Okay, I have a few here. Which slide up there has the total amount of calls for the Lundy's Lane area? Is there an total amount of calls?
I did, from 2011 to 2017, the total amount of calls in that area was 11,000.
So in the last 2 years, or I'm looking for last year, or whatever, because as you know, I had someone make a complaint to me that the police were at some site for, I think it was 160 times, 180 times, or something like this.
Right.
And I understand that was false, so I'd just like to get an idea of how many calls were in the Lundy's Lane area for that.
I don't have that right with me, sir. I can get that for you, but the stat you're referring to indicated one of the local hotels.
Yeah.
Which indicated within the last 2 years, there was a total of 190 calls to that specific area. However, again, put that in context. Once you break it down to per month, I think it broke down to about 12 calls per month, which then broke down to about 3 calls per week. And that particular hotel has approximately 90 rooms. So although the 190 sounds, when you first hear it, quite traumatic, when you break it down to an establishment with, can have anywhere from 300 to 400 people in it on a regular basis, I think that puts it a little more in perspective.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think the chief will be answering this one, but Chief, if you recall, we had that video that went public a year ago, give or take, at that one hotel, and I don't even remember the name of it. And one of the complaints I get as a chair is that police officers are investigated, we never hear anything more back from the public. And sometimes they don't have, I won't say they don't have the right to hear it, but certainly it's in the system. So the complaint to me was, what happened to these officers on that complaint and that video from a year ago? And your response to me at the time was it would either be a chief's complaint or an OIPRD complaint. But I'd like to know what happened with that. Did it become a chief's complaint? Was there nothing wrong? What happened as a result of that video to, I believe it was the Carriage House Hotel? I believe that was it. Thank you.
Yeah, that particular incident occurred 2 years ago, and it was and it's been dealt with through the discipline process under the Police Services Act. In fairness, the complaint ended up being, the issue was that he used profane language. The officer was on video using profane language at a call at that particular location, and that was dealt with under the Police Services Act. Under my purview, it's dealt with by informal resolution, and that's not something that is released to the public. It's a matter that's left with the service. If it's dealt with in a hearing or goes to a tribunal, they become public, but it's an employee-employer relation that's dealt with in that manner in all cases. But it has been dealt with.
Thank you. Do the people that laid the complaint or were involved get to know any more than what we're hearing right now? So example, the people at the front desk at the Carriage House Hotel. Do you talk to them afterwards, or does somebody go to them and say, we've handled it, or are they expected to watch this?
Well, they'll be aware that it's been completed, the investigation's been completed, but they're not advised of the employer-employee resolution at the end of the day, no. That's informal resolution that's not shared.
Okay, from my standpoint, if I was a citizen and somebody did this to me, even though you don't want to tell me what happened to the officers, or if anything happened to the officers, I still want to know that it was looked into. So you say that they're aware of the investigation. So they are told that, I want to make sure that there's closure to this for these people, that they know that you looked at it, you're a fair person, and if there was justice to be done to the officers or not, that it was done. Do the citizens get that right to hear this? And this is in general, in any complaint we have with the police force.
Yeah, we would get back to them, and I would expect that they know, and I believe that they do know, and I believe that they were satisfied with the outcome of that particular investigation, or at least were informed that it was complete. We've heard nothing that I'm aware of since that time. It was a one isolated incident at that hotel, which really didn't tie into what the issue on the statistics, but it came up as well. I think the person that you were speaking with made mention of it. So that's
Okay.
why. But as far as I know, that they're aware of the completion, but they're never informed of the penalty that's ensued. And I don't know if Woody wants to offer any opinion on this. He would be able to explain to the reasons. And
I don't think we
on the
need
wrong
that.
side of
Unless
it.
we don't need Woody to comment on it, because I think we understand that. But I just want to make sure, and I'm asking you in the future, and I'm sure you do this, but to make sure the officers have some completion with people that make complaints to us, whether it's justified or not. I don't want people left hanging out there, if they are. They might not be.
I don't believe that's the case. I've never
Okay.
had anybody call and ask about it, and we do normally, an investigator would get back to someone to tell them that the investigation is complete.
Thank you.
As does the OAPRD does as well, if it's an OAPRD complaint.
Thank you.
Chair, I can add, I've met with the management and owners of the Carriage House twice now, and I think we have a pretty good relationship going now.
That's perfect. Thank you for that. Any other questions from the members here? Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it. All those in favor of receiving this? Carried. No deputations, Deb? Consent agenda items.
this one?
I'd like to move items 75 through 91 in block, if I can have a mover and seconder, and then we'll take the first person who wants to ask questions on it. A mover is Member Stewart, a seconder, Member Caslin, who wants to be the first to ask questions. Member Stewart, which item, please?
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question on item 85. That's to do with Municipal Freedom of Information Act. I would just like to understand on page 3, we have a chart about the number of requests and, dollar amounts collected in application fees, et cetera, and a comparison from 2015 to 16. And what I'm trying to understand is from 2015 to 16, the number of requests increased by approximately 12%. But in the second column, the amount of fees collected dropped by 23%. So two things in opposite directions. I just wonder what the explanation for that would be.
I'm not sure, Gary Holden is here with us today, and he oversees that area, and I'm not sure if you heard the whole question, though.
Okay, welcome back, by the way. No, on page 3 of the report and the chart, I just saw two things going in opposite directions, and one was the number of requests were going up, which I can understand that, but at the same time, the number of application fees, the amount of money for application fees went down. So I'm just curious of why that exists.
Generally, the difference in the fees goes between the difference between a personal request and a general request. We're not allowed to attach any fees to a personal request. If it's a general request, we can attach 20 cents a page or $30 an hour for such a search. So that's usually where the difference is. Just to point out as well, just to make sure, you saw the asterisks in that one column, the 640. What I did this year, just to clarify the issue, is to show the difference. In past years, they would show the additional fees on top of the $5 application fee and group it all in. Just to kind of clarify it, I separated it this year.
Okay. So basically, the difference is really the nature or the type of request is when they're
right.
accumulated. Okay,
That's
thank you
correct.
very much. That gives me the answer I was looking for. Thanks.
Does anybody else have any questions on item number 85? Member Gansel.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, Mr. Holden, good to see you back again.
Thank you.
I do have some questions, and it's more related to the 90-day extension. Is this now being applied to all, if I was to file an application today, the expected turnaround time is now 90 days? If my memory serves me correct, originally it was 30. Is that correct?
That's correct, and currently the legislation is still 30 days. Because we had such a backlog, we contacted the IPC and we're asking for a 90-day extension so that the public was aware that it was going to take that long. We're not currently doing that anymore because we have full strength back in the unit.
So then, I take it then we're back to basically very close to a 30-day turnaround.
That's correct. That's what we're telling the public. We might still be a couple, maybe a week over, but we're not asking for the 90-day extension any longer.
And has that information been communicated back to the IPC in Toronto?
Yes, it has.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions on item 85? Member Stewart, you still have the floor. Do you have other questions on other items? Anyone else have questions on other items? Member Bonham.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to item 75, the way I'm reading that is that the OPP is on an annual basis providing information to us with regard to the number of hours of OPP policing support that's provided within the jurisdiction of the Niagara Regional Police Service. My question is, do we, on a reciprocal basis, provide policing assistance in OPP jurisdictions? And if so, do we provide a reciprocal report of our support for them within their jurisdictions on an annual basis? And if not, why not? Thank you.
This is just an information report that the OPP does, and I think it's for their method of reporting to Treasury Board through the provincial government. And this is the first time we've ever seen this report, and no, we do not keep track of time if we assist them on the QEW, for instance, with a collision. We don't report back to the OPP on the number of hours that we assist.
Well, is there any merit in doing that, since they're coming to us saying, how many hours we're helping you? Should we not be providing them with reciprocal information that we too are reinforcing of policing in the area and providing assistance, whether it be number of incidents or total number of hours on an annualized basis? Thank you.
As I said, the first time we've seen this report, I don't know that there would be any value in us collecting and collating that information and creating a report to send back to them. I'm not sure what the value is, but we don't do it. We haven't. The first time we've seen this.
Well, thank you for that. And there's without question, there are instances where we, in a reciprocal manner, do provide assistance to the OPP, even though we don't track it. Is that a fact?
Absolutely, yes. They work within our region, and we cross paths all the time, and we assist each other.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions on item 75? Member Castlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And on Monday, it was Tuesday, I was presenting to Niagara Falls Council, and a question that came up from one of the councillors was about the cost of policing in the casino district, so it may be appropriate to talk about it at this time, if I may. And I'm not an expert in the policing activity in that area. In fact, I know very little about it, but they were concerned about doubling of policing efforts resulting in a cost to the city of Niagara Falls of $4.2 million. So could I please, for the record, have your comments on are we duplicating services with the OPP and RCMP, or what's the justification for the cost to Niagara Falls?
With respect, through the chair, I mean, that's a huge historical issue in policing in Niagara region, the Casino Patrol Unit. So this is something that dates back to 1996 and is in fact in the hands of the board now and has been ever since I've been here to discuss the funding. As far as duplication, no, there's no duplication. We don't do any duplication of work. The OPP is responsible for gaming and policing, alcohol policing inside the casino. The Casino Patrol Unit is completely separate. We don't do that work in there. The Casino Patrol Unit is a geographic area within two district that was designed in 1996 when the casinos were built here. and they're specific for the road street patrol in that area. The $4.2 million is in fact, is money that was negotiated from 1996. The funding model changed about 4 years ago. I think, in fact, I think the chair would be very knowledgeable on this. He's been in discussions with the city of Niagara Falls as to the payment. I have said all along, since I've been here, that I don't think it's the appropriate method of funding the police service. I think the funding should come from the region for the total amount, and the region and the city of Niagara Falls should have the discussion. Chief of police should not be at the whim, so to speak, of any of the mayors across the region, because I report to the board to the region. So it's a very, very complex issue, and it is something that the chair here and the previous chair have been in discussions with the city of Niagara Falls, certainly as long as I've been here. So I don't know if that answers your question completely, but it's a big issue.
And I'll comment briefly on it. It was supposed to come to our board for discussion in April or May. They had a consultant in that the chief and I met a year and a half ago, or something like that. And they were getting a consultant in the city of Niagara Falls to analyze the worthiness of spending the money on this and so on and so forth. They were supposed to bring it to their council. They have not yet. Dean Iaforta, the city clerk, corresponded with Deb and said that it still hasn't come to their council, and we would like it to come to us so we can discuss it before they bring it to their council. So it's left in their court right now. But at present, we're still getting $4.2 million. And I fear which route this might go, but because nobody ever antes up, they always ante down, if they want to call it that way. So we'll wait to hear what, it's in the hands of the city of Niagara Falls for the time being, but we're just getting $4.2 million.
Okay, and I thank you for that explanation in the, as I say, I'm not an expert in that area at all, but how do we get that message back to the Niagara Falls Council? Because it was a question asked of me, and obviously there's misinformation that exists there. Is there a way that we can get the information to those councillors about the questions they ask or the reports that are forthcoming?
Chief, I'm going to interrupt on this if you don't mind. I think it's going to take a meeting between yourself, myself, the chief, Mayor Diodati, and that when they get their report back to iron this out. But right now, we're still getting $4.2 million. Until somebody starts pulling the plug on that, I fear moving fast on this. But
So the question wasn't about the money necessarily. That was a byproduct of the situation. The question was about excess policing in the casino area.
So there is no excess policing in the casino area. There is a geographic area that has been carved out of 2 District since 1996, which is sort of a big patrol area that's known as the Casino Patrol Unit. And frankly, I've said before, I think it was named wrong. It should be named something like the Entertainment District or something along those lines. The purpose of the unit was when the province built the casino in 1996, there was great fears, I gather, about what crime and other issues that would follow. And as a result, a Casino Patrol Unit was established. Initially, what it was is that OLG was paying directly to the board or to the region? I don't recall. To the board. I think so the OLG was paying that money directly here. And then about 4 years ago, OLG changed their funding model. And they said, we're no longer paying directly that money to the police. We're going to give then they came up with a new funding formula for the city of Niagara Falls, which, gave them 5 times the money they were getting in the past, and told us that we had to, or told the city, you pay the police. And with all due respect, that's where another piece where that, in my view, should not have happened, because our funding stream should come through the region. So what's happened was, so at the end of the day, if that money disappeared, I can't afford to cut the 20-something people that work there. They would just then become part of 2 District. They absolve those borders, and they would have to take up the policing in that area. So it's a very tenuous situation, and it's been. When I first, 5 years ago, the previous board chair was meeting with the city of Niagara Falls. And so I guess to answer your question on how the council members and get their information, with all due respect, Mayor Diodati is very much aware of this and has been involved in these discussions with us ever since I've been here, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, but it seems to always migrate back to the cost of policing, and that wasn't the question. The question was about duplicate policing in in the casino area, and I'm wondering how we get that message back from an expert in policing back to Niagara Falls City Council, because obviously the mayor was there when I was asked the question, and he identified me as being part of the police board and asked me to get that information back to the City Council of Niagara Falls. So I'm asking, Mr. Chair, if we can please do that.
The city, we're happy to cooperate. I'm happy, we can go give them a presentation at council if they wish. You know, if the mayor wants to ask and have the police come and tell them what the casino patrol unit does in that area, to absolve their possible misthought that it's just a bunch of policemen thrown on top of the regular policing that already exists. That's not the case. But it's for that small area. So if that assists, we can arrange to have, if they want to invite us to one of their council meetings, we'll come and make a presentation.
So the request was made of me. I did say that I would follow up, so I'm asking that the police at some point follow back up with the I'm not sure where the feedback's coming from. Is there another mic in the area?
Can the guys at the back take a look? There's feedback coming back somewhere here. And it just got really loud, but, okay.
So my question is, once again, it was asked of me to get a response. Can I have somebody from the police to advise City Council of Niagara Falls of what the situation is with policing and who's doing what between?
Okay, I will handle this. I will talk to Mayor Diodati, because we were expecting a meeting by now on that issue about the consultants they had. So I'll see him at Regional Council tonight, so I'll have a talk with him about it, and I'll inform you as how that went. Okay. Any other comments on item 75? Any other items on the consent agenda item? Any other questions? All those in favor of receiving them? Carried. Next is unfinished business, number 92, the NRPS 2016 year-end financial operating results. Can I have a mover and seconder first on this, please? Member Ganzel. A seconder, please. Member Bonham. Comments or questions on this item? Member Marshall.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to, I believe, Laura. Excuse me. Laura, all these transfers that we processed, or that you're proposing that we process to balance the budget, how were those numbers arrived at?
Through you to the chair, specifically the 4 recommendations that we put forward at year end was the 2.169 million, the 200,000, the 325, and the 94. Are you asking specifically how we came up with those figures?
Yes.
So the $2.169 million transfer from contingency reserve was to offset the accrual that we put in at year end for the collective agreement. It was based on 1.75% at the time. The 2.169, it was basically the entire contingency reserve that we had put in place, and it was also discussed during the 2016 budget process. The $200,000 for the capital levy reserve, that was to offset some of the costs associated with capital items that we had incurred in 2016 as a result of the move to the new HQ. So we had asked to bring $200,000 in. The $325,000 from the benefits liability reserve, that was to offset the increase that we had in 2016 as a result of our increase to our benefits. So to offset that deficit, we brought in the $325,000. Then $94,000 that we asked to transfer in from the PSB contingency reserve was to offset the legal fees that we had incurred, both within the PSB board and the bylaw office, as a result of some one-time legal fees, mainly as a result from the Uber contract and some other fees within the PSP board.
Thank you for that. On our reserve accounts, have we drained any of those reserve accounts?
So the 2.169 million of the contingency reserve that we recommended did put our contingency reserve at the end of 2016 at a zero, at basically zero. You'll find that the motion today is for 2.34 million, and that's based on the regional council's recommendation from the region staff to transfer in 2.34 million, and that is, which was passed by regional council. That 2.34 is the sum of the 2.169 million plus the 165,111 deficit that we reported in our board report. So the two of those add to 2.34 million. So essentially what happened at Region Council is that the Region staff recommended that the police contingency reserve go into an overdraft position at the end of 2016 of to the amount of 165,111. And as a result of that, they knew that we were transferring in 2017 operating budget a $2.8 million from our operating budget to replenish the contingency reserve. So in a nutshell, we were overdrawn 165,000 in our contingency reserve at the end of 2016, but with the addition of the 2.83 million in 2017 operating budget, our year-to-date contingency reserve balance is about 2.66 million.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Appendix 1. And about halfway down the page, we got other allowances and benefits. We're carrying a year-to-date actual of $3 million, and it's just other, it's kind of like miscellaneous, except the amount is substantial. Can you explain what is in that for me?
Through you to the chair, are you referring to the variance of 2.2 million?
Well, yes, that and the actual for year-to-date of 3,300,000 or 3,000 rather.
So that line item includes the 2.169 million that we had to accrue for the collective bargaining.
Oh, so that's where we buried that. Okay,
Yes.
thank you, Chair.
Any other questions or comments? Member Stewart.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, I'm just curious, we're trying to, of course, tidy up the 2016 scenario and the impacts of the collective agreement. I'm just curious, you mentioned about a requirement of approximately 1.75 million or whatever to deal with, that would be sort of the retroactive contract raises. Am I understanding that correctly?
When we were completing our year-end process, at the time the award had not been announced, so we based our year-end provision on a 1.75% collective results, and for 2016. So that equated to approximately 2.169 million, and that's what we booked. So when we booked that amount into our salary line, we also brought in the funds from our contingency reserve to offset that provision, that expense, sorry.
Okay, and I realize because the increase was split, that helped us stay within that. That's very good. But for 2017, our starting rate for wages is not going to be 1.75% average. It's going to be 2.3 added on to the 2017 wage increases that were arbitrated. And I'm just curious as to what the impact is going to be on that relative to the amount of contingency put away in 2017.
Do you want me to say? Okay, so through you to the chair, we will be reporting our first quarter results at the May 11th Finance Committee meeting. And at that time, we will also be reporting the forecast as well as the impact of the collective bargaining impact to our 2017 year. I believe that the director did provide the board with preliminary numbers, and at this time, we just closed our first quarter, actually today. So we really don't have any updated information based on the information that was provided. So at this point, what was provided to the board is what we're currently saying is the impact. But again, at the May 11th meeting, we will be able to provide you with a forecast.
I'm just curious if we could also, at the May 11th meeting, and I appreciate, getting the most up-to-date numbers, how that impacts going forward for the 2018, because it's not going to be too long before the budget process starts for 2018 budget. And I have fear of some of the impacts, so perhaps some data at the May 11th Finance meeting might be helpful, if that's possible, I guess through the chief. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, and I've gone out of my way to say 2018 will be a challenge, but Member Barrick.
Great, thank you, Chair. This report really is fundamentally tied to accounting. And so closing out the 2016 statements. And I appreciate the difficulties with respect to the timing of closing out the 2016 statements and then getting the final settlement, hence the deferral or last month until we have the settlement, which is appreciated. We now have that clarity. And I have to say, now that that's public, how proud I am of the bargaining team, staff, and board members, in particular, Board Member Bonham and Chair Gale and Vice Chair Gansel and all those who participated through that process. Because when you look at the historical context and you look at the numbers, and there's two sets I'm going to provide, and Deb Reed was kind enough to provide them to everybody on Regional Council as well, that from a negotiated settlement perspective, from the years 2000 to 2015, it averages about 3.2% increase per year. The average settlement on the most recent round is approximately 1.9%. So that's a great achievement we should all be proud of. When we know that the cost of policing is an issue and the sustainability of the economics of policing is an issue across all police forces, it's not just in Niagara. Maybe more sensitive in Niagara, but certainly it's an issue across the board. And so this team has done tremendous work. When you look at the relationship of those salary increases to the overall budget, and you look at the previous years from 2000 to 2014, it's an average of about 6% budget increase every year. And when you look at this board, years 2015, 16, and 17, it's an average of 1.65%. Again, a tremendous achievement by staff and this board in terms of addressing what perhaps previous boards were unwilling to address, and that is the sustainability of policing. So I believe we have provided clarity to the public. Previously, it would have been really easy to, at the front end, just budget 4 or 5% again, and let the settlement land wherever the settlement will land, and sure, it's paid for. But the public wouldn't necessarily know. They wouldn't necessarily have that transparency because it would have been already budgeted in a global budget and where it lands. So I'm happy with the transparency through this process. The public knows what the numbers are, and we are a working board. We're not a rubber stamping board. Yes, there will be more work to do. There's no doubt about that. We all have to roll up our sleeves, And that's what we're here to do, is to work on behalf of the public and the communities that we serve. And so again, the results speak for themselves. Very proud of staff and board members with getting these results. And the work is not done. The bonus, however, is we do have clarity now. Looking ahead, when we start to budget for future years, we know what those salary increases are, so that'll be very helpful. So part of it was a bargaining strategy, which I won't go into detail. I don't think it's appropriate in public to talk about that. But overall, well done, and kudos to all those involved. Thank you.
Any other questions on this or comments on this item? Member Castle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We hear time and time again, we've heard over and over, the short time I've been here, the cost of policing and how we're dealing with it. And I just want to say that as a board member, I'd much rather go in with a stretch target as low as possible and then simply adding extra just in case. Kudos to staff for, and really I need to commend them for, on the record, for coming in as low as they have for the longest time in history that I can remember, the lowest increases. So I mean, kudos to you for staff for doing that through the chair. But again, coming in with a stretch target is much more palatable for me than adding extra just in case money.
Thank you for that. Any other comments on this? Member Bonham.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm just, on this topic, I was wondering if there's any systemic review by the board with regard to these contingencies and reserves in terms of total amount to ensure that they're proportional, not excessive, and absolutely mandatory that we maintain the levels we do. In my opinion, it's early taxation, and if we don't need to bring taxes from the taxpayers early to have them sit in an account somewhere, then we should be focused on not doing that. A systemic review of appropriate levels may bring that about, so I just want to put that on the floor to see if there's any further comment on that. Thank you.
Well, Member Marshall is chair of the Finance Committee meeting. May I suggest that if you wish that, talk to him, and at the next committee meeting date, that can be brought up on that. But the comment made from citizens, especially in St. Catharines, and I had an account I remember coming to me saying that, thank you for hitting your reserves. We don't like them sitting in your bank account for such a long time. We understand some reserves, they're for a rainy day, but we don't seem to have rainy days. And one of the things that the worst investigation that we can all remember, and I don't even want to say the guy's name, back in the 90s, if we had 2 or 3 of them, and pray to God we'd be going back to the region with hat in hand saying we need more money, and they get it, and we all get it. But hopefully that never happens, and so I'm happy that we touched our reserves. We don't ever want to deplete it, but I'm proud of how that happened. So if you want to talk to Member Marshall, and if he wishes to bring that up at a Finance Committee meeting, that's great, or we can bring it up whatever you want, but I agree with that.
Thank you. I'll definitely do that. Thank you.
Any other comments on this item? Member Berg.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick comment on your last point with respect to reserves. Again, the board did have the foresight to put that provision, a provision in the reserves for this. So I don't want to leave the sense that there was zero provision set aside. There was a provision set aside. And the fact that there is a 100, and I think what was the number, $165,000 deficit reported on our annual statements is just an accounting mechanism, because in 2017 it's actually 2.66 million. We've again replenished the reserves, and that's what it's there for. So when people talk about, wow, they depleted reserves, yeah, sure we did. We add money to reserves, and we take money from reserves on a regular basis, and that's what it's designed to do. Thank you.
Thank you. And one last comment on this, and I'll give him a compliment at the end of this, but I see reporter Grant LaFleche is here, and he reported in one of his articles that we were 121% over budget, and I questioned that at the time, and then it came up in an article again, and I want to commend staff. Deb and Lisa were outraged by this, and they got on it right away. I was in Toronto, and they handled it, and I see with communications, I don't want to put words in your head on this, apologize or whatever. There was a correction put out that it wasn't 121% over. It was a misread and that. So I credit you with changing that in the article and that. And I really credit Deb and for Lisa as staff for getting on this and combining on emails or however you did it, Deb, and that for having our backs on this because it was wrong. So that being done, we have a mover and seconder on this, Deb? Okay, all those in favor of receiving this? Carried. Now to new business, item number 93, use of the Stingray International Mobile Subscriber Identity. Can I move and seconder to put this on the floor, please? Member Ganzel, Member Stewart. If the board doesn't mind, I'd like to start this off with questions because I brought it up on this. So, Chief, a few years ago when Member Petrowski was on our council, he brought up, I credit with him because he was on top of this at that time, he brought up questions about the Stingray or whatever devices we had and asked some questions about whether the police had these items, how they were using it, and things like this. At that time, and rightfully so, you asked for 30 days to go back and check on it, and I have your report in front of it. Some of it's public, some of it's private, but bottom line was you said it was operational, and it would hurt our operations if we disclosed some of this stuff. And that, I'll just summarize it quickly on that. And then recently, there was an RCM, well, and then I'll go. Last year, we had shared meetings, shared services meetings with Hamilton, and Bill Sawchuk, a reporter from Post Media, had a question of Lloyd Ferguson, who's chair of the Hamilton Police Board, and asked him about shared services. And one of the comments he made was, I'm told Niagara has some wiretapping equipment that's very new. We either have to get that equipment ourselves or outsource it. We will explore that further when we meet. I didn't even remember that comment until Google and things like this on us having up-to-date wiretapping items. Then there was an article a couple weeks ago that the board members were made aware of from the RCMP, I'm sorry, from CBC, questioning the RCMP and other forces. The title of it says, Cell Phone Surveillance Technology Being Used by Local Police Across Canada. There were a few articles on this. I'm sorry?
Could I ask that perhaps we discuss this in confidential first? Because we're right on the cutting edge of things that I can't talk about and some things that have already been said that probably shouldn't be mentioned in public.
You can ask, and you can, and we can have a vote by the board, but I can tell you, I'm not in favor of this because there's questions here I feel, and I've talked to our solicitor about it, that should be in public on this.
I don't disagree with you, but some of the things that you've already said, I think, probably, I won't speak for your counsel, you might.
These are all public things I've just said to you, said.
Well, I don't think so. You just read an email between yourself and another board chair that I'm not certain. That's.
An email? That was an article.
Or your discussion between Hamilton. Did that come from a news article?
That came from an article. I got the whole article right
I
here.
apologize. I thought you said that was an email from him.
No, that was Post Media article on September 7th, 2016.
Fair enough. And I'm not opposed to it landing in public at the end, but I thought it might be fruitful for the board that we have a discussion confidential on some of the issues.
And I appreciate what you're saying,
First.
but it goes like, and the way I look at this is, and as you know, I used to be a police officer, carding and that. I see the advantages on carding, but I also see how the pendulum swung on that. And the government said, no, we can't have carding. I know carding was a valuable tool. In this case here, some wiretapping. We represent the community. My hat says community, as well as the other people here. So we have to ask some of these questions to make sure there's checks and balances on our police services throughout Canada. RCMP was questioned by CBC, and I'm sure you've read the article and others about wiretapping and that, and some things were happening that shouldn't have in the article. I'm trying to be very generic in my answers here, but I have a number of questions based on this that I've gone through with my solicitor, with our board solicitor, because I recognize the last time you said it was operations, and we disagree on some of these questions. So, and out of courtesy to you, I'll read the questions if you wish, and you can take a month and get back to me. I don't need an answer right now on this, but last time you did take a month, and rightfully so, and talked to your solicitor and came back and said it was operational, we can't answer it. I feel that might be wrong on this. I'll let the board defer, but I've got a number of questions here I'd like to read out that I went through our solicitor, Woody McKeag, that I should ask. And then I think a wise choice might be, but you're your own man, might be, can I get back to you in 30 days or whatever the case may be on this? If other board members don't have a problem with me doing this, I'd like to ask these questions. These are the questions I have. If you don't mind, I'll say all the questions here. I think it might be wise for me then to give you the questions and have you respond. Is that fair? Okay. My first question will be, has the NRPS ever used mobile device identifier surveillance technology? And how many times, not investigation each year, because we understand, and by the way, these questions came from Member Petrowski, from the CBC, from article, from press. As you know, I talked to Bill Sawchuk from the press and some citizens in that. So it's a combination of that I got all the questions together, I gave it to our solicitor and said, when am I treading on a fine line? But again, I keep my community hat with this. So has the NRPS ever used mobile device identifier surveillance technology? How many times? Not investigations, because I understand an investigation can take 6 or 8 months, and you could use it 100 times. So I'd like to know how many times. Does the NRPS own the Stingray catcher technology that is described? And how many devices do we have of this? How many of these devices do we have? If the NRPS used this technology, were warrants always obtained? I would take the answer is yes, but in the article with the CBC, the RCMP identified there was one time they didn't have a warrant. I want to make sure that the answer is yes on this. Has the NRPS obtained express approval from Industry Service, Science and Economic Development Canada, which oversees regulating technology that might interfere with wireless communications, including 911 calls? The reason I ask that question is because I'm told that these devices, when they're being used in an area, block out 911. I'm being told that citizens in the area, if they try 911, they can't get it if that device is in place. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I'm being told. Is the types of communication the NRPS has collected, if it has used this technology, texts, voice communications, emails, cell phone serial numbers, etc.? If it is, what happens to the incidental information that is picked up? We'd just like that explained to us. I'll give you all these questions, and Deb, I'll ask you to print them off for him. What are all the measures taken by the NRPS to protect against the collection of data from innocent cell phone users? Number 7 is, has the technology ever been installed in a fixed location? What I mean is setting it in a location, just leaving it there. I would take the answer is no, but I'm asking the question. And my last question is, I've been told in the past that, I'm trying to word this right, I've been told in the past that tapping services were used prior to you coming here, Chief, on government officials. I'm not saying in the last 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. I won't even say when. And I've also been advised by other police boards that, oh, they're used all around. Now, this is a flippant comment. But would it be fair for me to say that if this has ever been used with government officials or politicians and that there's always been a warrant? I would take the answer is going to be yes, but I'm asking the question. And finally, I'm going to ask the board to expand on this, and this will be in a month when the report comes back to us. Can the service provide an annual report, maybe this should be a policy, on how many times the NRPS uses this technology in its investigations and provide confirmation that is used every time with a judge's order? So just like we have a report how many times a gun is fired, things like this, at the end of the year, I'd like to get a report saying that it was used in 20 investigations, it was used 100 times, and there was a warrant every time. A report once a year like we do with other things. With those questions, I'm going to leave it be, and I'll leave it open to other board members here if they wish to make any comments on this. Member Barrick.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for asking those questions. I have an additional one that, again, doesn't have to be answered right now, and happy to go in closed session, maybe to get some, or wait to another time. But with respect to the request that you made, Chair, about a potential annual report to notify some of those statistics with respect to wiretapping, and I believe, and I stand to be corrected, that's why I'm asking the question, that perhaps existing regulations state wiretapping is actually just that, hardwire. So if there is a reporting regulation in place with respect to wiretapping and it's hardwire only, then I'm wondering, we'd like to see as well the similar statistics with respect to wireless And I know it's a bit of a technicality, but I want to understand clearly the information we're asking for and the terminology and definitions that we are using. It is actually all-encompassing with respect to the scenario you're talking about. So wiretapping may be wired only, and I don't know how much that's used necessarily anymore with regards to communications these days, but then also statistics on wireless as well.
Thank you. So unless the chief has any comments right now, or any other board member has any comments, we'll get all these questions for the chief to respond to us in a month, and you can talk it over with whoever you have to on this. Chief, do you have any other comments?
Yeah, I might as well make some brief comment here, but we're certainly going to have to take those away and go back and consult legal counsel and prepare what responses we can and determine what we believe can come back in public, and because some of it may have to come back in confidential. Start with the last question, Member Barrett. First of all, the terminology I know general public uses is wiretapping, but the true definition in the criminal code is the interception of private communications. And so it covers, it's not just wires, it's not just hardline telephones. If we gain authorization from a judge, which we have to do to intercept, it could be, you specify what it is. So it's wireless, it's all lumped into one, it's all covered by the same section of the criminal code. It requires the same warrant. In regards to the advice, because as I said, we knew this, some of these questions were coming. We'd received the same request from CBC and consulted with counsel before we responded to the CBC. And the response at that time to them, which was developed with legal counsel, I'll just read it out so that the public knows that we did respond. That may not satisfy your need today and have to be answered further in the following report. Our response was police services worldwide, including the NRA, enhance their capacity to conduct modern criminal investigations involving digital technologies, communications tools, and information data and storage. In keeping with RPS will consider the use of evolving technologies to lawfully obtain evidence in order to advance investigations of serious criminal code offenses that impact public safety. Due to the operational nature of the three questions posed regarding the Niagara Regional Police Service's use of what the term is a cell site simulator, it's our opinion that the responses associated to those questions would jeopardize investigations, ongoing court proceedings, and impact public and officer safety, and therefore the NRPS is not in a position to respond to those questions. In further consultation, so that was prior to the email from Mr. Petrowski, that is number 93 on the board agenda. We went back to council and further discussion in response to those questions. Council's advised that the answer I should provide to the one is that no, the Niagara Regional Police Service does not own the specified equipment that's been asked about. And then beyond that, I think the rest will be left for a report we'll bring back to you. Just at the end, I'm sorry, I meant to mention when Member Barrick asked about the interception piece, and you asked about a report to come back here. When we obtain a warrant to conduct interception of private communications, we have to report back to Public Safety Canada every year, and we do that every year on the number of interceptions, the number of authorizations that have been issued by judges. So we report to the federal government on that already, just for your information. But
Okay, so thank you for that, Chief, and I'm going to suggest that your report back to us comes in confidence and confidential, and then we will, I wanted the public to know that we are looking into this, and we are discussing it in confidential, but we will bring something out to public, even if we say, sorry, it's still whatever, but I want the public to know that we're asking the questions, and I look at the article here with the CBC, and all it says is police in Montreal, Regina, Halifax, Ottawa, Niagara, and Windsor declined to comment. Citing policies not to discuss. It doesn't go into the depth that you had, but I understand press and that, but still, on behalf of the community, I think there's a fine line we walk and you walk that we have to make sure that the pendulum's right in the middle the best we can. So if you can respond to them in a month or whatever, I'd appreciate it. Any other questions on this item for anybody on the board?
can I just ask, Deb, will you provide us those questions in writing then?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, all those in favor of receiving that? Carried. Item number 94, an NRPS organizational structure revision. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Member Marshall, Member Stewart. Comments or questions on this item? Member Ganzel.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the chief on this one. I think this is a good move on this. I don't note on the board chart Okay, I see what you're doing. You're moving it under District Operations Superintendent, correct?
It's moving under the inspector of one district, but it eventually flows up to
Oh,
that
yes, okay,
superintendent.
I
but
see
yes.
where it is. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions on this one? All those in favor? Carried. Number 99, Police Services Board procedural bylaw amendments. Mover and seconder on this, please. Did I miss something? Oh, I missed a page. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Chair, I'm happy to move the balance in block.
Okay, so items number 95 through 99. Sorry, I missed a page there. Move in block. Mover is Member Barrick, seconder. Member Bonham. Comments or questions on these items? I'll give you a moment to look at them. Member
Thank you.
Barrick?
Just on the procedural bylaw one that you referenced, can I just get clarity on the specific section that is being amended or repealed and replaced? So I see we have the entire document in front of us. I just want to be very clear that we are approving just a specific item within that. Thank you.
Do you want to comment on that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. The section is Section 11, which is a new section on the live stream video recording meetings. The other change is to Section 10.2, which is just updating our address, and Section 10.5, which is removing the hard copy posting of the public agenda in the front lobby. We've also added Section 22.2, which is the provision about the public being allowed access 15 minutes before the scheduled start time of the meeting. And those are the only amendments and revisions.
Great, thanks for that, and thanks, Deb, for putting this together. The only item I guess I had a question on is 11.5. With respect to live streaming, the board will post within 2 business days of the meeting the archived live stream video. From a technical perspective, is that going to be possible 100% of the time? Because I don't want to, you know, if it takes 3 days and someone says, well, you know, you broke your procedural by, I just want to, you know, allow the reality of, you know, is it 2 business days, or we say as soon as possible, or up to 5 business days, something like that.
Sorry, excuse me, through the chair. I think on this item here, I believe because of the platform we're using with YouTube, the video is live streamed like it's presently there, and as soon as the meeting ends, it's permanently there. So I mean, it's an immediate posting. There is no delay of any kind.
Through you, I don't know exactly the time frame. I know it comes up very quickly, but I could maybe just amend it to say as soon as possible. I don't know if it's immediate. I'd have to ask the.
I mean, I would leave it in there because
Sometimes it does, sometimes there are technicalities where I know we've had to, you know, there has been a time lag.
we're downstream of YouTube. So I mean, if YouTube, quote, crashed or went offline, we would be
I don't know,
offline.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't want to blur. I just want to make it realistic, because it says about archived. I'm not sure if we're relying on YouTube to archive our meetings, or if there's another, if we are archiving it, and then that's the technical piece. Thanks.
We are archiving, but I could make that amendment to change to just say as soon as possible. So if it's up within 24 hours or 2 days or 3 days, then we wouldn't, you know, that might address your concern.
Okay, make that change, please. And also, the meeting that we have in Smithville will be taped. That's an old term, but that's what I use, taped and replayed afterwards, because we can't have live stream at that time, so they don't get to see our smiling faces live. It'll be afterwards. And also that, this new procedural bylaw amendments, that's why, and I mentioned to Vice Chair Ganzel when he's filling in any committee meetings, we have to announce at the start, according to the bylaw, that we're live streaming from now on. Any other questions on any of the items from 95 to 99? Member Bonham.
Yes, thank you, Chair. A number of these items are requests for donations to support various activities on behalf of the police service. And I'm just asking if we could in future have it clarified in the request as to whether or not this is a continuation of a pre-existing support, or if it's a new event driven by some circumstance. It's not always clear via the terminology, and it would, as far as I'm concerned, be helpful for the board to know whether or not this is a request for continuation of prior support, or if in fact it's a new initiative that there's a request to be undertaken. Thank you.
And Deb usually does that. If it's missing somewhere, then we faltered, but usually it's in there, so we'll make sure that happens. Thank you. Any other questions on those items? All those in favor of receiving them all? Carried. Then now we have a supplemental agenda item, the updated item number 100 on your supplemental, updated NRPS special duty rates. Can I have a mover and seconder on this to put on the floor, please? Member Caslin, Member Bonham. Comments or questions on this one? Everybody found it? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Item number 101, the PSB member reappointment, Ken Ganzel. Congratulations, Ken. Can I have a mover and seconder on this? Not you. Member Barrick, Member Bonham. Any comments or questions on this one? Oh, yeah, okay. Ken's already found a typo, but congratulations, Ken, on your reappointment. I understand it's for 6 months and it's in the works for the other time and that, so thank you for that. Do you, Ken, I'm giving you the floor. You wish to say anything?
No, I appreciate the confidence of the board and the commitment I've made over the last, I think, 5.5 years, and my continual commitment to the community and the board that I serve on. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of that? Really? Okay, carried. I have new business, but does anybody else have new business? Okay, then I'll continue. First of all, I had down here, congratulations to Vice Chair Ganzel on his reappointment. We also have provincially appointed board members that will fulfill their time commitments within the next 12 months. Member Marshall and Member Stewart are in their 8th year. In filling those vacancies, I believe the province needs to encourage applications from diverse and underrepresented communities across Niagara, including women, as part of the upcoming appointed process. It's no surprise that we have 7 white males sitting on this board, and although they're good males, we have a good board. That's why I bring this up. By not replacing one of or both board members with qualified members from our diverse communities, the province will lose an opportunity to reflect Niagara's growing diversity, and this is an integral part of good governance. This issue of more diverse representation on police boards has been raised by other Big 12 police boards, the OAPSB, and stakeholders across the province as part of the Police Services Act review. I know these issues, and they've come up, especially when there's been violence in the cities and some of the Big 12 boards. I won't say the boards here, but I know of 2 that have problems because of the lack of diversity on their board. And that didn't cause the problems in the community, but it certainly is up for review. As board chair, I hope that future provincial appointments will consider more women and members of our visible minority communities, because it is important that our board reflects the diversity of the people of Niagara. One point is, it's not like we've never had a woman on this board. Bev Allen was the chair of this board back in the 90s, I'll say 80s. I knew Bev from Queenston. It's not like it's never happened. Both Vice Chair Ganzel and I have had inquiries from women and visible minorities who were interested in becoming police board members. These individuals referred to the ministry and MPP Bradley's office for more information on the public appointments process. I had one even yesterday that called me and said, why don't you have any females on your board? And it's hard to answer this. Now, I recognize, and I'll go a bit further on this, off script for lack of better words, that at regional council, we vote. We have 30 people we vote on. But as a provincial appointees, and I'm not picking on liberals, conservatives, or anybody like this, I think there's a duty to look at the board, and as I always want the best candidate. I don't care if it's 7 women, 7, I hope I'm using the term right, African Americans, whatever. I always screw this up, but regardless, I want the best applicants on the board, especially when I'm not here any longer. But regardless of that, I'm sure there's qualified women out there for our board and others and that. So I hope that MPP Bradley will consider this, or the Liberal government, or whoever's in power when it comes up on a time for these things. I hope the board might proceed with this further. Member Barrick?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. I know it's a topic that you and I have discussed on several occasions as well. And on that vein, I have a motion I'd like to put on the floor, if I may. Sure. That the Police Services Board requests greater equity and diversity in the public appointment process to ensure its member composition better reflects the diversity of the communities it serves in the Niagara region, that the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Community Safety and Correctional Services, as well as MPPs Bradley, Forster, Gates, and Oosterhoff be so advised. And I'd like to speak to it as well, if there's a seconder.
Sure, I'll get a seconder first and then go from there. Oh, Member Castellan? Okay, Member Burke, you have the floor then.
Great, thank you, Chair. I as well have often encouraged younger people, folks from different ethnicities, women, to get involved in the process. And I don't mean just the Police Services Board, but municipal councils, even school boards, just to be involved in the public process. And I got elected around, I was about 26, and I've always been the youngest person on the respective councils, the City of Port Colborne, and I'm still the youngest person on a regional council of 31 people, and of this board. I'm pushing 40 years old. So, and I'm still the youngest person. That's a problem. We need younger people. We need women. It's about half, 50% of the population is women, give or take, and 100% of this board is men. And I'd say, 50 plus Caucasian men. It's not reflective. It's not reflective of our community. And so I have a daughter as well. She's 11. And she had asked me if there was ever a chance that she may one day be able to be involved, like on a police board. And I said, of course. She said, well, there's no girls I didn't know. And wow, that's really disappointing, because nothing sends a stronger message that other people have opportunities than when they see somebody already there. It would have been a lot easier had there been a woman here, and my daughter and others, that's just an example, would see and then know, oh yeah, absolutely, it's achievable. And so I think through this motion and your comments, Chair, and perhaps others, we really need to drive the message home that we are welcoming, we want it, we want a reflective board, we want reflective councils, we want to engage people, get them involved. And so I hope that this resolution helps to send that message very clearly to those responsible for the appointment process. Thank you.
Member Stewart?
Yes, I quite agree, and having seen the slides from the last FPAC presentation, it was certainly brought in there about looking for diversity on police services boards. But I would like to add to people who should receive this particular position on the board, and that would include regional council. Regional council, in its wisdom, appoints 4 people out of the 7. And when I look at the 4 people appointed, I don't see any women there. I don't see any others as well. So if we're going to take this stance, then I think we send our position out to all people who appoint people to this board. That's not only including the provincial government, but it also includes regional council. They do have women sitting as councillors that they could have chosen. They could have chosen a citizen who was a woman. They chose not to do so for whatever reasons, picking the best people, all of that. I mean, I don't think us, quote, old white males are all bad and evil people, but I think the bottom line is that it should be a joint effort to achieve this particular goal, not just let's send it to the province and tell them to fix our problem. There's 4 people here that are appointed by the region. That's more than half the board. So I think there's some ownership and responsibility towards this goal that should exist there. So I would ask, if it's considered friendly, that this could also be conveyed to regional council as well.
Member Castellan?
Thank you, and I don't disagree with what you've said, but there is one other dimension that we're wrestling with on a number of different fronts in Niagara, and that is the migration or immigration of diverse cultures and heritage into our community. And we're seeing it more and more these days with people finding Toronto too expensive and wanting to move to Niagara. So our diversity isn't simply gender anymore. Our diversity includes culture and heritage, and that is also something that we need to be cognizant of, both at a regional level and at a police board level. And you're right, it's all of our responsibilities to make sure that happens.
Anyone else have any comments on this? So we all agree, oh, I'm sorry, Member Barrick?
Sorry, no, just with respect to Member Stewart's comments, of course, I consider that friendly amendment. I think that the timing on this one is because there's an opportunity for the province to take effect now. And certainly, you know, I guess I would add a caveat, because the region doesn't consider any appointments until there's a new council elected. So that message would be more poignant with the new council that goes through the selection process. Certainly, we can add the region here, and hopefully it's in mind, but we should also consider reminding them as we get closer to the next election and the new council when they begin their appointment process, when it's relevant. So it's always good to have this message right when you're at the stage of making an appointment, and you know, not 2 years away or something people forget. So let's keep it top of mind for all those involved. I'm happy whatever wording that Member Stewart is would like with respect to that the region of Niagara be so advised as well, be added in.
Just to respond to that, as far as wording goes, it's not a big, Deb Reed is much better at the wording than I will ever be, but we had a list of people that it was going to go to. Adding regional council to that list would and to your point, perhaps a year from now, a reminder of that correspondence would address the point that you made as far as council's choices go. Thank you.
Member Ganzel.
Yes, thank you. I think a lot has been said, but I do agree with what both Member Stewart and Member Barrick on. I think this is a good move at this point in time, and I fully support the diversity and looking at different ethnicity and cultural values within the region, and it being reflected on the board. I also agree that I think as we get into a new council term, as Member Barrick, as much as we may send this now to regional council, it needs to be another reminder going out probably sometime, you know, a month or two before the internal process of the region of their elections to various boards and agencies. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's wise, and it's good that the chair is here to know that, because it's not a bad thing to remind them when the process starts a year and a half from now or whenever that is, to consider that. And it's always to consider that, because I always want the best candidates, and like I said before, if it's 7 women's or 7 this or 7 that, I don't care as long as it's the best and that, but we should take a look at this. And we wanted to get ahead of the curve on this. I know Member Ganzel and I have talked about this in the past, and we've had ladies apply. And it's not a knock against MPP Bradley on this at all, because it could be any government as it goes along. I hope they're considering this when it comes up, but we do have good candidates. I've seen the names that have come through, and I hope they'll consider it down the way, and other governments that fall in place down the way. So we have a motion on the floor. We have a seconder. All those in favor? Carried. Deb, anything else? Member Castle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm going to ask for a little bit of latitude here. I need to revisit item 92, which was the financial document that we were talking about. I was searching during the period because I wanted to make sure that what was read into the record was the budget increases for and settlement increases. The budget increases for years 2000, 2014 averaged 6%. The budget increases for years 2015, 16, and 17 averaged 1.65%. Settlement increases from 2000 to 2015, 3.2%. And settlement increases for 16, 17, 18, and 19, 1.9%. I have sent this to Deb Reed, but I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind, please, adding that into my comments on item number 92.
Okay, thank you for that. And when Councillor Timms asked me at the region for the information of the past many years. When I send it to group councillors, does it go to the press and other people, or is it just councillors that get that?
That's a good question. I'll find out for you.
Okay, because it was something that everybody should know, because I'm proud of what we've done. But I sent it out to all the councillors. I sent it to group councillors at the region. I thought that went to everyone. So if it didn't, please forward it to the press if you want, because I'm proud of what we've done. I'm scared about 2018, but I don't want to say that as though the tidal wave's coming. But, you know, we have our work cut out for us in the future.
Hopefully having that written into the minutes would alleviate that, or would make it available for anybody who wants to see it.
Thank you very much. Any other new business items? Okay, we're done with public agenda. Thank you very much. We'll go into caucus next. Thank you.